everyone, my name is Amber, welcome back to my channel. This is my review of Nothing More to Tell by Karen M McManus. I haven't actually made any notes for this video, which may be a mistake, so you're gonna have to bear with me while I ramble about my thoughts. As always, I will start with a quick spoiler-free summary of the book, and then I'll get into my spoiler-free thoughts about the book afterwards. So Nothing More to Tell is another YA thriller book by Karen M McManus. She has written so many books over the years. You probably know her from One of Us is Lying and One of Us is Next. She also wrote The Cousins, which was quite a big hit, and then she wrote a book last year that was really boring and I can't remember the name of it. But Nothing More to Tell was much better than her previous book, thankfully, and I really enjoyed it. So Nothing More to Tell is about a teenager called Bryn who is doing an internship for a true crime website, and she wants to do a write-up on the mystery of what happened to her teacher who was found bludgeoned to death in the woods behind the school. We also follow a teenage boy called Trip. It's told from both of their points of view, and Trip is another student at the school and he's one of the people who came across the teacher's body. So it's coming up to, I think it was 4 years after the teacher's death. The students are putting together a memorial for him. It's a bit of a weird timing for me personally. I don't know why you would do that 4 years specifically after he dies, but whatever, I guess it works with their ages. The author probably wanted the students to still be in the same school. And so Bryn and Trip used to be friends and now they're not for various reasons, and they have to try to work together to figure out what really happened to their teacher. Like I said, I really enjoyed this book. It was very fast-paced. Once I started reading it, I couldn't put it down. It certainly wasn't boring like McManus's previous book was. I feel like she really had the pacing of this one down. I also really liked the true crime spin that she put on this. I loved that Bryn, the main character, was so interested in true crime, and so was her sister actually. They spoke about it a lot. As you may know, if you have followed my channel for a while, I'm also quite into reading about true crime, making videos about true crime, although I haven't really done that much recently, but it is an interest of mine, and there's a whole discussion about whether that's healthy or a good thing to be interested in, but that's for another video. It was really fun to read about a main character who was so invested in such a case and also had connections to it as well. I don't always love dual point of view books, but this one handled it really well, and I feel like both characters had enough different things going on while still being somewhat connected for me to be able to distinguish when it was switching from each point of view, because they were both told in first person, and sometimes that becomes a bit messy when you're trying to figure out who you've just jumped to. But that wasn't the case with this one. I think McManus did a really good job with it, and I really enjoyed following both Bryn and Trip. Trip had a lot of shit going on, I have to say, and he is dealing with an alcohol problem, so trigger warnings for that specifically, as well as the usual stuff for thrillers like death, murder, probably some drugs in there as well. We are reading from his point of view while he gets drunk a few times because he's having to deal with some trauma from what happened to him. So yeah, I really enjoyed watching the two of them work together eventually, or just coming together in order to work together in the future. I really enjoyed reading about that, and they were a really good pair. I also really enjoyed the very slight romance there was. Obviously between them it wouldn't be anything else. I really like friends to lovers, that trope, and that's kind of what this was once they eventually became friends again. I really enjoyed that, and I don't always like romance in YA because I'm just over it. I thought they were really sweet and I was hoping they would get together. As always, this book had a ton of character names that I had to try to remember. I would actually recommend going into most of McManus's books with a notebook, because you're going to need to remember so many different names and nicknames of different characters, but I think that added to the complexity of the mystery and the plot. Speaking of the mystery, it was really good. I really struggled to kind of figure anything out because there was so much going on and there were so many options for who it could have been, what the motive could have been, what was actually happening in the first place, why the teacher died, who the teacher was. There was just so much, and I really enjoyed it. I really quite liked going through all of the different teenagers and also like their parents and relatives and trying to figure out who had done what. It was a really good small town rich people mystery, and I really enjoyed it. The ending, as always, was super fast paced and going at like 200 miles an hour once everything started to kick off. I really liked that the main characters were suffering from some trauma, because like if you find your teacher dead in the forest when you're 14, then it's going to traumatize you, and I feel like not enough YA books really talk about that, because teenagers in YA books are super tough and like superheroes, but no, it's going to leave you with some PTSD probably, and it's also going to affect your friendships with not only fellow students, also teachers and your parents. parents as well. Speaking of parents, there were some really good parental relationships in this one. Of course, the parents of some people, some of the teenagers, were hardly around because they never are. In YA, the authors need to get rid of them somehow to allow for teenage hijinks. Some of the relationships that were there were really, really good, and I really liked how McManus addressed them and focused on them in some parts of the book. I also really liked the relationship between Bryn and her sister. I thought that was really good, and it was really nice to see a sisterly relationship in a thriller, even if it wasn't the main focus. I have seen some reviews saying that this book may have a sequel coming, and I don't know how true that is. I wouldn't mind a sequel. I just don't know exactly what it would focus on. Like, if you've got any ideas, leave them in the comments, but with a spoiler warning, because I don't know. I don't know how we could have a sequel from this, because in my mind it wrapped up really, really well. If you're after a star rating from me, I'm going to give this one 4 stars. There's absolutely no reason not to. It's not an all-time favourite book, which would make it a 5-star read. I'm quite picky with my 5 stars, but it was definitely a solid mystery thriller book, and I'm really glad that Karen M McManus is back on form. She did say in the author's note that she wrote this one during lockdown, and maybe she just had more time to sort of flesh it out. It was a lot darker as well than some of her books have been, which may be also a result of lockdown and what happened in 2020. So yeah, a really good book. I would recommend it, even if you haven't enjoyed a couple of McManus's books in the past. I would say this is on par with One of Us Is Next, which is one of my favourites, and also Two Can Keep a Secret. That's also probably my favourite of hers, I would say, and this is up there in my top 3. That's my review of Nothing More to Tell. Thank you so much for watching. If you have read this book or you're planning to, let me know in the comments below what you thought of it or what you're expecting from it. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll speak to you all again in the next one. Bye!